Welcome to the SMART Core Workplace Hazardous Material Information System 2015, which includes the globally harmonized system for classification and labels. Introduction to WHMIS. WHMIS identifies the safe use, handling, and storage of controlled products. In 1988, the House of Commons passed a bill which made WHMIS training mandatory for all workers, based on the right to know. All employees have the right to know about the hazards they are working with. For more information or details regarding Workplace Hazardous Material Information System, refer to Regulation 860. WHMIS 2015. Canada has aligned the Workplace Hazardous Material Information System, or WHMIS, with the globally harmonized system of classification and labeling of chemicals. Ontario proposes to provide a lengthy transition for full implementation of WHMIS 2015 in the workplace. The Workplace Hazardous Material Information System can be broken down into three elements: safety data sheets, or SDS, labels, and what we're doing right now, training. What is a controlled product? Products, materials, and substances that are regulated by WHMIS legislation. Products, materials, and substances that may cause or contribute to many serious health effects such as burns, rashes, cancer, lung or kidney damage, etc. Examples of controlled products may be propane, concrete, solvents, and paint. Let's review the three main components of WHMIS. Number 1, labels. Supplier labels, and workplace labels. Number 2, SDSs, safety data sheets, formerly known as material safety data sheets. And 3, employee training. Let's review supplier labels. In WHMIS 2015 GHS, the supplier label presentation changed. First, we're going to review some general information regarding supplier labels. In the next few slides, we will look at the old label and look at the new label so you can see the differences. All controlled products must have an official WHMIS supplier label. Missing supplier labels are to be reported to your supervisor immediately, and the product should not be used until the label is available. Supervisors are to contact the supplier for a replacement label. Let's review supplier labels. The label on the left for methanol is the old WHMIS supplier label. It has a hashed border, circles around the symbols, and see material safety data sheet for product written at the bottom of the label. The supplier label on the right is for WHMIS 2015 GHS. It has no hashed border. The symbols or pictograms are now in squares on their points. And there's no reference at the bottom of the label for the SDS for this product. The GHS supplier labels contain the following information. Number 1, the product identifier. 2, initial supplier identifier. 3, pictograms. 4, signal words. 5, hazard statement. 6, precautionary statement. 7, supplemental label info. Workplace labels are the labels workers create. Workplace labels are required when a product is decanted from its original container, a product is produced on-site, a product has a torn or worn-out label. Individuals that are knowledgeable about the product may create a workplace label and place it on the product. No container can contain a product without a label under any circumstances. What information would you put into a workplace label? Well, let's look at the workplace label requirements. Start with the product name. Add the precautionary measures such as wear chemical goggles and resistant gloves. Wash thoroughly after handling. Keep container tightly closed. Also make reference to the SDS or MSDS in the workplace label. Workers are reminded not much information is required to go into the label, so be as detailed as possible for the protection of the workers. In WHMIS 2015, they have introduced 3 hazard groups you need to be aware of. Physical hazards. Physical properties of a product, such as how corrosive it is or how easily it will catch fire. Health hazard. The ability of the product to cause a health effect like cancer. Environmental hazard. In Canada, it is not required to be labeled, but sometimes is. You will note some of these hazard groups in the SDS sheets for the products you use. In the last slide, we reviewed the 3 hazard groups: physical, health, and environmental. In this slide, we're going to look at the hazard classes to better understand what we mean by hazard classes. Hazard classes group together products based on similar properties. For example, gasoline and diesel are both flammable. Is one more flammable than the other? Most classes are common to the globally harmonized system and used worldwide, while some are specific to Canada WHMIS 2015. Each class requires different precautions to minimize harm to workers. In this slide list of hazard classes, you will see 2 lists that are examples of physical hazards and health hazards. Hazard categories. Each hazard class contains at least 1 category assigned a number, 1 equaling most severe and 4 equaling least severe. They may also be assigned a type represented by a letter. These tell you how dangerous the hazard is. The lower the number and letter, the more dangerous the hazard is. For example, a Category 1 hazard is more dangerous than a Category 3 hazard, while a Category 1A hazard is more dangerous than a Category 1B hazard. If you have been trained in WHMIS before, then these symbols and pictograms will seem familiar, as they are the old WHMIS symbols and pictograms. In the following slides, we are going to learn about the new symbols and pictograms and compare them with the old ones. Here are the new WHMIS Globally Harmonized System pictograms. Take a minute and familiarize yourself with the differences in the old symbols and the new symbols, and we will compare them in the future slides. This pictogram is known as flame, the new label on the left and the old label on the right. The flame represents a wide variety of flammable materials, including flammable solids, liquids, aerosols, and gases capable of catching fire in the presence of spark or open flame under normal working conditions. Substances which, in contact with water, emit flammable gases, organic peroxides, and this is a physical hazard group. Flame over circle pictogram. The new pictogram on the left and the old pictogram on the right. The flame over the circle represents oxidizing material. An example of oxidizing is oxygen acetylene torch. You start the torch using acetylene, but it can't burn very many things because it's not hot enough. Introduce oxygen and it will burn brighter, hotter, and faster, oxidizing. Oxidizers increase the risk of fire if they come into contact with flammable, combustible materials. They can be solids, liquids, or gases, and these are a physical hazard group. The gas cylinder pictogram. You can see the new pictogram on the left and compare it with the old pictogram on the right. The gas cylinder pictogram is used for the following classes and categories: gases under pressure, such as compressed gases, liquefied gas, refrigerated liquefied gas, and dissolved gas. And this is a physical hazard group. The corrosion pictogram. On the left, you can see the new pictogram and compare it with the old pictogram on the right. Corrosion pictogram covers materials that are corrosive to metal, Category 1, are corroding or irritating to skin, Category 1, 1A, 1B, and 1C, can cause serious eye damage or irritation, Category 1, and you will notice it is a physical hazard group and a health hazard group. Reactivity exploding bomb pictogram. with the new pictogram on the left can be compared with the old pictogram on the right. The old symbol and new pictogram mean the same thing but look quite different. Both depict potential for explosive reaction from self-reactive substances and mixtures. These products may explode upon standing, when exposed to physical shock, increased pressure, or temperature, or even water. It is a physical hazard group. Biohazardous and infectious pictogram. This is the only symbol that still remains in the black circle. These materials contain organisms or toxins that can cause disease in humans or animals. It is the only pictogram that is the same in both the 1988 and 2015 WHMIS system, and it is a health hazard group. Skull and crossbones pictogram. With the new pictogram on the left, it can be compared with the old pictogram on the right. Skull and crossbones represents acute toxicity, poisonous and infectious materials, materials causing immediate and serious toxic effects. Effect can be caused through ingestion, absorption, or inhalation. Can cause death or immediate injury when a person is exposed to small amounts. For oral, Category 1, 2, and 3. If dermal, Category 1, 2, and 3. And for inhalation, Category 1, 2, and 3. This is a health hazard group. Original WHMIS symbol, toxic, covered both life-threatening and less severe reactions. In the WHMIS 2015, it was replaced with two separate pictograms. The health hazard, which causes or is suspected of causing serious health effects, and the exclamation mark, causes less serious health effects such as irritation or sensitivities. Both these symbols are a health hazard group. The health hazard pictogram represents more than one hazard group. It can cause cancer. It can mutate germ cells. It's a respiratory sensitizer, reproductive toxicity, specific target organ toxicity, repeated and single exposure, and an aspiration hazard. The exclamation mark pictogram is used for acute toxicity, skin irritation, serious eye damage, respiratory or skin sensitizer, and specific organ toxicity. The environmental hazard pictogram. Materials with this pictogram may cause damage to aquatic environments. It's only present in the 2015 WHMIS system. It's not mandatory, but may be used to provide additional information. In this slide, we're going to test your knowledge on what you've learned about pictograms. Multiple hazards. Possible for a material to present multiple hazards. For example, a chemical may cause death if swallowed, long-term effects that increase the risk of cancer if inhaled, and irritation if it gets on your skin. What symbols or pictograms would you see for this type of product? The health hazard, corrosive, and the skull and crossbones. How many of you were able to pick all three pictograms? Safety data sheets, or SDS. SDS and MSDS, Material Safety Data Sheet, are very similar. Only major difference between them is the MSDS has 9 sections, while the new SDS will have a 16-part standardized format. The new format will include new chemical classifications, new label elements, and new hazard symbols or pictograms. Safety data sheets are produced by the supplier in French and English for all controlled products and tells the users what the hazards of the product are, including how to use it safely, what to expect if recommendations are not followed, how to recognize symptoms of exposure and treat exposure, what to do if an emergency occurs. Controlled products that are used, handled, and stored in the workplace must have an up-to-date MSDS or SDS. Where are the MSDSs or SDSs for your workplace stored? The safety data sheets will start with Section 1, Identification. It will also give us the intended use of the product, so we know why we purchased it and why we're using it. Section 2 is the hazard identification with signal words such as danger. Section 3, the composition of the ingredients. Section 4 of the SDS deals with first aid measures. Every worker should know this section prior to working with any controlled product in the workplace. Section 5, firefighting measures. Section 6 of the SDS deals with accidental release measures, which can be used for spill response. Section 7, handling and storage. Section 8, exposure controls and personal protection. Section 9 deals with the physical and chemical properties of the product. Section 10 of the SDS deals with stability and reactivity. How does this product react with other chemicals? Section 11, toxicological information. How does this product react with biological beings? Section 12, ecological information. How does this product react in the environment? Section 13 of the SDS deals with disposal considerations. Section 14, transport information. Section 15, regulatory information. And Section 16 of the SDS deals with other information, including data preparation or last revision. Let's review workers' rights. Workers have the right to know about the hazards on the job. They have the right to refuse unsafe work and the right to participate in matters that may affect health and safety at work. Employer responsibilities regarding WHMIS. Employers must ensure controlled products are labeled or identified, obtain and provide safety data sheets for controlled products, educate workers, all employees in the workplace where materials are used, handled, and or stored, and workers must receive yearly WHMIS training. Worker responsibilities regarding WHMIS. To apply the knowledge and training they have acquired during this program. Ensure that it is being used on the job site. Inform the employer of problems. Methods of control. At the source, control methods include elimination, redesign of a workstation, equipment, or work process. Substitution. Substitute a toxic chemical for a safer alternative. Isolation. Enclosure of a hazard such as an automated system and soundproof booth. Other controls include local ventilation systems, machine guarding, general housekeeping, adequate lighting, guardrails and barriers, noise baffles. If we are looking at controlling the hazard at the worker, this includes personal protective equipment, or PPE, and administrative controls such as safe work practices or procedures. The following slide is the criteria for effective controls. If we have controlled the hazard properly, it will eliminate the danger at the worker. It will allow workers to work without undue discomfort or stress. It protects all workers likely to be exposed, does not create any new hazards, does not create any external environmental hazards. General safety. In this program, we learn personal protective equipment can be a control measure for controlled products. Know symptoms of overexposure and the appropriate first aid measures. Report signs of illness to your supervisor. Communicate any unsafe conditions, such as ventilation failures, leaks, or spills to your supervisor immediately. As a worker, it is your responsibility to inform the employer. This is the end of the WHMIS GHS 2015 slideshow. Thank you for your time and have a safe day.